Hey, welcome back to another tutorial. This time I'm going to talk about non-uniform scaling and parent hierarchies. I give a few examples where this has gone wrong and what I generally do to avoid it. I did cover non-uniform scaling in another video, but this one goes over sort of doing it away from the procedural meshes and doing it in sort of more complicated systems. So let's get started. This has come up recently in a couple of examples, and I wanted to just sort of show what's happening, explain what's happening, and then show some ways to avoid it. So in this case here, we've got a tray with 3 glasses on it, and this is from the world Saturday Night Vibes by Leon Comment and Bobotron. It's a very good world. I enjoyed hanging out in it, but this tray did have this particular issue. So you see that the glass looks normal, but when I grab it and let go, weird things start happening to the glass where it's just sort of scaling weirdly. And at first, people thought that this was a bug with Neos, or a bug with the avatar, or a bug with the world or something, and actually it's just a bug with the tray. So what's happening here is that when you grab something, it changes the parent of the thing that you grab to your hand, and Neos performs an adjustment on the rotation, scale, and position of the object, so that it can be parented to your hand at the same size. When you let go, it then performs that mathematical calculation in reverse, and tries to put that object back at the same rotation, scale, and rotation back onto the tray as a parent. When it does that with non-uniform scale, the mathematics work out that the scale needs to change, and that's what leads to the stretched or the warpingness that occurs. And so avoiding this is tricky unless you know exactly what you're doing. And the way that you need to do this is you need to keep everything as much as possible at a uniform scale. So as an example here, I have 3 cylinder trays that are set up very similar to that drinks tray over there. We've got a red one which does the wrong thing, a green one which does it the correct way, and then a blue one which also does it a slightly different way that allows you to get away with some other stuff. I'm going to go over each of them in turn and sort of talk about what's going on. So let's inspect the red tray here. In the red tray here, you'll see that I've made a tray using a cylinder mesh, and I've scaled it in the y-axis to 0.01. Now, I covered this in my other non-uniform scale video, where I talk about not scaling procedural meshes like this. And this, in this case, is what's causing the tray to misbehave. So if I grab one of these cubes here, here's a pink one, and I rotate this pink one, you'll see that weird things with the scale happen. And this is caused by the non-uniform scaling. We're going to delete that cube. If we go across to the green tray here, you'll see this is what you should be doing, at least with procedural meshes. I cover this in the procedural mesh video. You'll see here that the rotation of the cylinder, sorry, not the rotation, the scale of the cylinder is 1,1,1,1. And to make it that sort of flat tray-like structure, I've shrunk the height down to 0.01 so that the procedural mesh looks like a tray and everything sticks to it. And so now when I grab the box, and I rotate it, it stays at the normal scale because everything is uniform scaling. That may not be appropriate though if you have a non-procedural mesh. I wanted to give you an example of what I would usually do when there is a non-procedural mesh involved. So here I've got a tray again, but this time I have scaled the tray to 0.01. But you'll see here when I grab the cube and I rotate it, everything's still fine. So what's the difference here? The difference here is that I have parented the boxes to an object that is uniform scale. And then on that object, I've created a slot called visual. And the visual is what contains the actual tray visual. You'll see that the visual is also 1,1,1 scale, but then the cylinder itself is non-uniformly scaled. And this is the way I recommend you do it. If you need to do non-uniform scaling, create an object above it, which everything gets parented to, that is uniformly scaled to 1,1,1,1, and parent everything to that. And then on that object, create a slot called visual, and then underneath that, you can do whatever scaling you want to make it look accurate. For example, if I wanted sort of like an oval-shaped tray for my world, I could go ahead and do that by sort of saying, hey, here's a 0.5, so that's a really non-uniform shape. You can't get away with that using the procedural meshes, but again, still, the cubes aren't going to malform or change, etc. You can see this in a lot of cases. For example, you can even see it inside the developer tooltip here. So if I de-equip this developer tooltip and duplicate it and then re-equip it, so that we've got 2, and then I inspect the object of the developer tooltip, and we go up to the top here. You'll see here that we've got the developer tooltip as the root, and that is now uniformly scaled back to 1, 1, 1, 1. Then underneath that, you'll see that we've got a slightly non-uniformly scaled visual part of the tool. So I can turn the visual off without affecting the actual above object. So this can be scaled however I want, because nothing that is actually parented to the tool is scaled to the non-uniformly scaled point of the object. As another example of something that came up with this, I have 2 avatars here, and on the left here, I've non-uniformly scaled some of the bones in the avatar. So if I equip this avatar, and I pick up this cube, and I move this cube around, you'll see that this cube is, oh, that's from the red table. I should have done it from the green table here. So if I pick up this cyan cube here, and I move it around, you'll see that it's behaving strangely when I grab it. And that's because, again, some of the bones here in the avatar are non-uniformly scaled. So as I move things around, it gets all sort of skew-if, etc. This is also really apparent on spheres. So if I go ahead and I make a sphere, and I grab this sphere, you'll see it now sort of, takes on the sort of approach of a potato when I have it grabbed, etc. Again, that's non-uniform scale. You can also see it on my tool. My tool now is oval shaped rather than being cylindrical. If I inspect my hand here, and I go up, even does the inspectors here, and you go to the left hand, you'll see here the left hand has been scaled by 1, 0.7, 1, and the hands are actually a little bit flatter than the usual Ybot hands. And that's what's causing the problem, because when you grab something, it parents it to this slot called holder underneath your avatar, and the holder slot is within your avatar's hierarchy. So any non-uniform scaling within your avatar's hierarchy will also affect this. As an example here, if I go ahead and I grab the sphere here, and you'll see it goes all weird. If you look underneath the holder slot here, hold on, let's do that. You'll see that there is a sphere there. So inside the holder, there is the sphere. I can't interact with that due to the non-uniform scaling. Or the buttons, because everything's all skew-if here. So just keep an eye on non-uniform scaling. Do that visual trick where you've got the objects parented to a uniform scale object, and then you've got a visual slot, and then underneath the visual slot you've got your non-uniform scaled object, and you'll have no problem. To illustrate that it's not anything else going on, I've also got the same avatar here, but uniformly scaled on all the bones. And you can see I can pick up cubes from the green table here, rotate them around, and they work fine. So there you go. That's some more pointers on uniform scaling. Please avoid non-uniform scaling wherever possible. If you've got any questions on this, please do let me know. This was a hard video to explain, as there's a lot of sort of maths going on behind the scene that I don't fully understand. So I hope I explained the topic well. I'll see you next time. More easier to record videos and easier to understand videos coming soon. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.